when the women of the Northeast went in front of of the committee and spoke about the anger and the frustration and the continuation of this Armed Forces Special Powers Act, Verma, I was also there with my sisters from the Northeast, and we pointed him out that your judgment in 1997 cannot be ignored, sir, because it has had consequences on lives of the people living in North. Then he immediately asked, what happened to the do's and don'ts? And we quoted Justice Suresh's, they are followed more in breach than in compliance. The do's have in fact become don'ts, and the don'ts have in fact become do's. And thankfully, with great respect, I think Justice Burma did empathize a little bit with what people were going through. And in his report, he concluded, we notice that impunity of systemic or isolated sexual violence in the process of internal security duties is being legitimized by the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And he concluded that the application of this act needs to be reviewed in these conflict areas. And he pointedly recommend to remove the requirement for prior sanction from central government for prosecuting security personnel for certain crimes involving violence against women. So, and in NDTV interview, he again very clearly stated that, going and capturing a woman in this disturbed area, taking them to a camp and sexually abusing them have nothing to do with national security, and therefore this has to go. But what is very unfortunate is that this part of Justice Verma's recommendation was completely ignored when the criminal law amendment was passed, and the Armed Forces Special Powers Act still remains. So the scale of protection of a woman in the disturbed area is that, well, Manorama case after 9 years is still at large. The army who is supposed to enforce, the army authority who is supposed to enforce the do's and don'ts for its sepoys have gone and protested and suppressed the simple inquiry commission that Manipur government even did, and the matter is still pending in the Supreme Court. So if any woman in this part of the country is sexually abused, the penalty can go up to death penalty. But if it happens in the disturbed area and it is done by the armed forces, then it's your luck. Sorry. I think this scale of discrimination is unacceptable. And there's a whole incentive structure that gets promoted. And there was reference to the whole, this is the report that the Manipur Civil Society have come together, where we have documented 1,528 extrajudicial killings. Justice Suresh have said in 2000 that a sanction to kill can never be constitutional. We have documented 1,528 cases of extrajudicial killings of civilians and in cold blood. And the Supreme Court has been apprised of this through our PIL, and the Supreme Court have chosen 6 cases out of this randomly and have asked Santosh Hegde and his team to inquire into this. Santosh Hegde and his team, after due process, have submitted its report and concluded that in all the 6 cases, there was no encounter. And this claim by the security forces, these are hardcore terrorists, has no basis, because there's not to talk about terrorism. There were no criminal records of any kind against these 7 victims, because in one incident there were 2 victims, 7 victims whatsoever. In conclusion, at the heart of it, Santosh Hegde also, besides this observation on individual cases, said, when you give public power to any authority, the more power you give to any authority, there has to be more accountability. But under the way in which Armed Forces Special Powers Act is applied, you give power to even kill people, the ultimate power to kill people on suspicion, and there is no accountability structure whatsoever, giving complete impunity. So he concluded that this phenomena of killing people, even though he was not asked to comment on Armed Forces Special Powers Act per se, he very clearly stated that this is only a logical conclusion of that kind of a law in operation for so many years. In the court, when Justice Alam looked at the report, he also asked the National Human Rights Commission Council that please go and visit Manipur. And they did. They did on 22nd to the 25th of October. They examined 46 cases, out of which 42 were fake encounters. And in that fake encounter, we are still yet to hear from 20 cases, but in 22 cases they have already granted interim compensation of 5 lakh each. Just to conclude, I would like to humbly plea that it is about time that perhaps from this jury itself, we ask the National Human Rights Commission to wake up. If you are ready to write to all the members of the parliament on TADA and on POTA, it is about time that you do the same on Armed Forces Special Powers Act as well. Thank you very much.
You forgot to mention that on this August panel, there are 2 victims of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. The first is learned Justice Shishar. He was judge of the Guwahati High Court when the army went and ransacked his house in Dimapur. No questions were asked, none answered. He did not even file a police case because I think he thought that this was something which not be done, but he being a good Christian, must have believed in that would forgive them. Second case is my case. I was made a member of the State Human Rights Commission in 1998. I was supposed to assume office on the 10th of December the next year. On the 9th, I was having my last farewell kind of gathering with my friends. 4 of them were cabinet ministers of the state government. We were sitting inside my chamber, but suddenly a group of army men came and rushed in with their major leading the charge. And he said, under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, he has the power to arrest me. Then I showed him my warrant of appointment given by the government. And you know what this joker major told me? He said, I do not recognize the governor of Manipur. Can you imagine that? I'm not talking about ordinary citizens on the road or on the streets being harassed by the army. I am a member of the State Human Rights Commission. And I have a warrant of appointment given by signed by the governor, who is answerable to the President of India. The President of India signed the commission of this officer. Now, if he questions the existence of the governor, then he questions the existence of the President of India. So in a manner, he's acting more like a rebel kind of ragtag thing. Then the matter went to the National Human Rights Commission. This is where the role of the National Human Rights Commission would come in. And then they gave me then they issued notice. And then the reply given to the National Human Rights Commission was that it appears that I, as a member of the State Human Rights Commission, appears to be in league with anti-national elements. This was the finding of the army. And then I replied back to the National Human Rights Commission. I enclosed a letter which was signed by Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee as the Prime Minister, congratulating me upon assuming the office of the State Human Rights Commission. I even included a greeting which the actual commanding officer of the battalion who came and arrested me had sent me. I gave him my 30 years of track record on human rights and all that and blah blah blah. Then you know what? I thought the National Human Rights Commission would at least give a warning to the concerned officer. Instead, they decided to close the case. As if the army is a holy cow to them. It's a sacred kind. But Babu, at the end of the day, I think our life and our future in the North is not in the hands of the Home Ministry or the Development Ministry or the other ministry. I think it is in the hand of the Defense Ministry. I think the Jivan Reddy Committee report has been shared because under pressure of the army. So as far as the notice is concerned, it is martial law, quote unquote. And I think that's something which we should take into cognizance and try to put pressure to all available avenues, NHRC, Supreme Court, whatever. Thank you.
Yep. The list can go long. Sorry, sir.
That the act has been, in a sense, legalized because it's also in Kashmir, it's also in Tripura, and it has become a kind of wine that the army cannot live without. And the do's and don'ts, remember when it came to the Supreme Court, it was removed by a lower bench, which is not supposed to happen, the do's and don'ts. So basically, and Jeevan Reddy also in his recommendations had gotten into UEPA. Now UEPA is also a dubious way.
Sure.
When we want the Armed Forces Act, we don't want another stringent law instead.
Right.
So I think we should show that if someone will do some work, we can show how development and employment is damaged by the existence of the Armed Forces Act in various states of India. And therefore its idea of protecting the citizenry is false, because it is actually making the citizens dependent on other things.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, in 1958, when this act was being debated in the parliament, there was also a point of order by Mr. Mohanty saying that this is ultra-virus, and unless and until we invoke the emergency provision of the constitution, we cannot discuss this in the law, in the parliament. And at that time, G.B. Pant, the then Home Minister, tried to persuade the parliament saying that this is only a temporary measure, and once the situation in the Naga Hills is come under control, this will be lifted. But this is 55 years and it has never been lifted. 1950 was Naga Hill, 1960 was Lusai Hills, Mizoram. 1970 was Imphal Valley and Tripura, as you have rightly pointed out. 1980 it came to the Assam Valley, and in 1990 it went to Kashmir. In 2000 there is already a proxy armed forces special powers act in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Tripura, and in many of these places already paramilitary forces are working. Sir, our humble submission, and this is not a problem of Irom Sharmila or the people of Manipur, or for that matter, people of Northeast or Kashmir. This is a problem of if you give special power to the military, and if the political class cave in to the military pressure, 10 years down the line, we are talking about 20 years of armed for the protection of human rights. If you look at next 20 years, if we continue to cave in, if the political class do not claim the democratic space and continue to cave into the military, 20 years down the line, I don't know how India is going to be any different from Pakistan was in terms of military and...
Let's be frank, there is a kind of overlapping between the military and the political elite.
Sir.
So if the military was absolutely straight, it wouldn't happen. And this happens everywhere. Sir. In Kashmir also, it's military and the political elite. Sir. So we have to show this linkage.
Sir, absolutely, sir.
Why it is fruitful for the military to have the Armed Forces Act. You have already shown that you don't need it for fighting the military.
Sir.
But you should show why there is this next.
Sir. Thank you very much, sir.
To discuss the brutal murder of Saubham Baucha and his friend Gurung, we have Baucha's mother, Saubham Radhe. Just a reminder that discussing such traumatizing events in public is not an easy thing, and we're very grateful to Radha for coming today to speak to us. And again, the case is on page 11 of the packet.
I Manipur dagi lakone ai Imphan Kasampat Segaro Korapam Lekai Saubham Radhe ai ibu roi mami Bihari ai isanupa dai dabasina Banglar Alai Sasunda.
My name is Saubham Radhe. I am from Manipur. My husband's name is Bihari, and my deceased son's name is Baucha Alai Sachanta.
I isanupasi 2008 December gi tang kunipanda mahak aina yotlay oi haina yung sabagi yotlay oi na satkibani aduga pung amaga minute 35 da ai ga maga phone tongnarami adugi matungdagi pung ani dagi switch off lay gare.
On December 28, 2008, I asked my son to get some iron for the home construction of the house, and he had spoken to me around 1:15 p.m. and